Hey everybody, BeyondDrewTV here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the final part of our panda habitat speed build here in Planet Zoo. Or as I'm going to go ahead and recall it or rename it, it's going to be the Pandatat, right? I mean, has anyone called it the Pandatat if they've done like a panda like habitat build yet? If not, everything from here on out, every panda habitat that anyone builds needs to be called a Pandatat. So welcome to the final build of our Pandatat here. So if you haven't watched the first part, definitely go back so you can catch up first there and then go ahead and see all of what we're doing here. But yeah, today for the Pandatat finale, we are wrapping up by doing some gardens here in the little courtyard area. I think I mentioned that in the last episode there. So we're starting the gardens area here and then we're finishing out the actual panda habitat there. But the majority of the episode pretty much revolves around these gardens here that we're kind of laying out right now. And speaking of that, I want to talk about this real quick. If you don't know what we're doing here, I'm making 3-meter paths. Now, normally in Planet Zoo here, you can only, the smallest normal path that guests can walk on is 4 meters, which is pretty big still for being these quote-unquote smallest path size that you can do there. Yeah, like I said, it's still pretty big, pretty wide there. So there is a trick that you can do to kind of get the paths down to 2 meters and 3 meters, and that's what I was doing there. So this path here that people can still walk on, even though it's shrunken down, is a 3-meter path, and it's not too complicated once you get the hang of it and everything. There's some great tutorials out there from Mike Sheets and actually pretty much him. He has a probably the best one out there to follow. I'll link that down below there. But yeah, go ahead and follow that if you want to get a nice quick tutorial on how to do 2-meter and 3-meter guest path there. And yeah, it'll like I said, it's a little bit complicated, but once you get it, it's kind of a game changer for you to make really skinny, smaller kind of kind of side paths and sidewalks and just little skinny paths like that. So yeah, but moving on there, we have our pagoda here. This is just a this kind of one-off little thing I saw in a lot of the reference images I was looking at. Again, if you're not using reference images for your builds, I really highly recommend it. All the time I have Google Images up next to me, and for this I just typed in traditional Chinese garden and it brought up a ton of images, not just from China. There's a lot of them from, there's a Berlin like a botanical kind of Chinese traditional garden, and some other ones from like in Arizona and stuff. So you get some really great influences, and a lot of times you get influences from places that you kind of wouldn't suspect there. So that's where that pagoda reference came from. I kind of took from that there. So, and then on this other side here, my initial thought was to kind of just fill this with foliage and kind of see me sifting through. And then I kind of realized that we have this amazing Japanese, I can't even remember what it's called, but it's like a Japanese, not the maple, but I'm not sure, but it's a really beautiful bright red tree there. And yeah, I just really wanted to do a focus point on it because I remember seeing from different, again, reference images. Everything's taken from a reference image. So, but different reference images that they would sometimes kind of have certain trees that would kind of be like, an attraction almost, kind of really built up. So I wanted to go ahead and kind of feature this tree there, and then start to put a lot of rock work around it. And the rock work is a really big deal there. I noticed in a lot of the traditional kind of Chinese gardens there that placing very small rocks and kind of building them up and just, I don't know, putting different kind of rock formations. And I'm sure there's, obviously reasoning and everything for why they put certain rocks in certain areas and stuff like that. I kind of just started throwing them down. And as you can see, we're using really itty bitty rocks here. And that's by just taking the smallest rock that we can in game and then shrinking it or sinking it down into the ground even more. So there's just barely, the tip is just kind of coming out there, but it kind of makes this really cool, again, just kind of rocky, gravelly kind of effect there. And we kind of do that around the entire garden area. And I think that's one of the really cool features of kind of Chinese gardens and everything. These really cool, again, rock formations and stuff like that. So kind of tried to mimic that just a little bit there. So, and then another thing, oh yes, I had to mention this. You'll see those kind of mini, I'm going to keep calling them pagodas. I'm sure there's an actual formal name for it. I'm not sure what it is though. But those really small looking pagodas there, that was, I did not build that. That was actually built by Carlos over on the Bro Nation Discord. He's an amazing member who's doing, I think he's doing a few different kind of builds. He's doing like a kind of a Brazilian zoo that's super authentic and realistic. And he's starting to do like a Japanese build. I'm not sure if it's connected or not to his Brazilian build and everything like that. But anyways, he had made these, and I saw these on the Bro Nation Discord, and I was just like, I need that. Can I please have it? So yeah, he went ahead and put that up on the workshop. Definitely, I'm gonna definitely put a link to it in the description, and hopefully the comment there, the top comment that I pin. If you are interested in that, go and check that out. And he also has his entire workshop is filled with amazing creations that are really beneficial to everyone's zoo there. So I definitely recommend checking out his page there. And I think he has a YouTube as well. I'm gonna have to investigate that, and if he does, I'll link that there so y'all can check out some of his builds there. So yeah, again, thanks to Carlos there for putting that up on the workshop. It fits into the build super well here. So as I was kind of jabbering about that for our garden build here, we're just really kind of filling it in with the rest of the foliage. For my kind of foliage palette, you kind of hear Mike Sheets, our local garden master there. You hear him kind of talk about having a palette, basically like a foliage palette. Only using a handful of plants to kind of fill out your area and stuff like that, and kind of have good colors and stuff like that for it. He explains it so much better than I do, but I'm just like, whenever he does any kind of tutorial like that or explains it, I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So for our quote-unquote palette, I guess you'd say, I just put on the Asia continent filter in the filters category there and everything, and really just tried to stick with a lot of dark and light greens, and then a few of the pops of pink there. I really wanted to get, I wish those were a little bit darker red. It was either we had way too dark of a red bush to use, or it was kind of more pink like this, so I opted for the pink. But yeah, you see that in a lot in the Chinese gardens reference images I was looking at, just these little pops of light red and light pink amongst the darker greens and stuff like that, just to kind of break it up a little bit. And then that island there right in the middle, I think this is a good tip that a lot of people kind of overlook, is that you don't always have to raise the land up in like a lake or whatever have you, to make like a rock formation, right? So don't always think you have to go into the terrain, tool and then raise the land up in the middle of a lake or a mountain or whatever and build it like that. You can always just, like I did there, just take the rocks and build it out in the middle of it with just our, the rocks that we have in game and stuff. So yeah, that's what I did there for that little island. And I love the vista, or the kind of views that you get with that, the Scots pine, I think we used for putting in the middle of that little rock island and everything. And just the way it all kind of lines up with the huge, temple kind of structure in the background, and the pagodas and the gardens, everything. That whole first half there, just that whole gardens half of the build here, I really like how that turned out. And yeah, as you saw in the cinematics, yeah, I think it turned out really well. So yeah, here we are building on the actual panda habitat. And this went by fairly quickly. The panda habitat, I wanted it to feel more natural than the kind of the beginning area with that, the garden and how it was kind of more manicured and stuff. I wanted this area to feel more like you kind of went into, almost not up into the mountains because you don't actually go up or anything, but kind of get swept up into the natural areas, I guess, where the panda tat, that was so natural, where the panda would be hanging out and stuff like that. So yeah, the only real structures we have back here are these simple viewing structures, which nothing too crazy about them, just kind of use that dark stone there for it, and some of the East Asian pillars. I was originally going to do a Chinese tea house design for the viewing structures, and I was this close to doing it, but again, I kind of opted to kind of make this area more natural setting than kind of having it built up there. So but yeah, again, so the panda habitat portion of it is definitely the shorter version of the on the shorter side of the time lapse here, just because again, it was kind of just having to throw in a lot of trees and rocks and just kind of blend everything together for the most part. So yeah, but hey, for the most part, that wraps up the panda habitat. Don't forget the top comment, the pinned comment, and in the description I'll have the habitat blueprint for you to download for it and everything like that. So go ahead and download it there. Make sure to favorite it on the workshop and everything. Leave a comment on it so other people can see it and it gets more exposure. So yeah, and go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the panda habitat, and also what's the next animal that we're doing. What are we doing next? I think the next top voted comment on the cheetah habitat was the Indian rhinoceros. So how do we feel about the Indian rhinoceros, or does someone have a different idea for a habitat for us to build? So yeah, hey, until the next habitat speed build there, y'all have a good one. Thanks for hanging out.